Look good. Yo, what's good? What's up, Plus? What's up, Kalechi? STK Reacts. What's up, Buns? What's up, Tommy? Good to see y'all. I was looking at Plus's comment. Free music production software. I mean, there isn't really any like really standout ones. But yeah, you could use the trial version of FL Studio, but you can't open up projects again. What's up, smiley face guy? And then you could get Reaper. That is a decent free music production tool. I think you're limited on tracks. That's about it. What's up, Lazy? So we got a juicy topic today. How was your day? It was pretty good. Nothing crazy. I don't know if anybody paid attention, but you know, I did a video on a keyboard and I gave away the keyboard. Just shipped it out today. So somebody who was in the Discord did win it, and they'll be receiving it soon. So pretty cool. Yeah, I kind of want to get right into this. This is something that's just been annoying me. What's up, PF 100? Ooh. Maybe you guys have seen this. There's a lot. Yeah, this white GPU. Yeah, he won it. He'll be getting it pretty soon. Yeah, this is a spicy video. But at the same time, it's like, so I have like, just like as a pretense, I have watched this. So Hardware Unboxed does their monthly Q&A, right? And one of the questions on here, obviously, this was pretty much a whole podcast. I mean, this episode was almost an hour long, and it's this specific topic I want to hone in on is, or zoom back in, is AMD missing out on market share? That's how they titled the chapter, but I would also kind of phrase it as, why does AMD continue to mess up every single time they release a graphics card? And why it, like, so if you guys want some like reference to, a lot of you guys might have even found my channel through the one video, like why AMD graphics cards are so great but nobody buys them. I almost wish I went more into it on this video of why their marketing strategy is so garbage and how it consistently gets bad. Oh, and this is Roxy, by the way. She's like, how old is this cat? I think she's like 14 or 15. She is very old. But yeah, you get many of you guys have probably found my channel through this video, and this is gonna be almost a part 2 to it, because got more to say. We'll see if she just, if Roxy starts walking in front of my monitor, I might have to take her off my desk, but it should be okay. Plus just said, I've never seen a positive review for a Radeon when they release new, and then they're always mentioned as great options after with the price drops kicking in. Yeah, that's usually how Radeon products go. I mean, and this generation is like, this is like a prime example of that in total. And like for a reference point too, is like a lot of people have referenced, say like let's look at this. So they aren't really cheap anymore because they're running out of stock finally for it, but 6600 XTs, many people have referenced these at like 285. They were around 220 to 240, I think, when people were referencing them. Nowadays, if you want a card of that performance, you get the 6650 XT. But these cards, like, I know it was during mining and stuff, but I don't think RDNA 2 is any different than RDNA 3. These cards also launched at like crazy high price points. Like, why was this card MSRP'd at $380? Like, and I'm pretty sure these got bad reviews when they came out. So like even the cards that we're looking at today for like good value, I mean, more people are looking at the 6700 XT for really good value. But like these cards didn't launch well either. This card was almost $500. Yeah, it was during mining and all that crap, but it's like I don't think RDNA 2 is exempt from it. Newt says I've only seen a little bit of that video. I find it funny that AMD were in disbelief. Oh yeah, we'll get to that. We will get to that. Cannon says in about 1,000 years, the can will be the new dog in human edge. Oh god. Okay. Zubir says AMD refuses to be seen as the value option. Yeah, it's almost like they try to act like they aren't the value option when they don't have like. I've actually liked how people have been talking about it now. People have been saying mind share, which is cool because there's like market share and then there's mind share. Mind share is how many people have a good view of your product, that how many people think about it and want to buy it as the first option. It's like what product is in people's heads, and that's completely different from market share. NVIDIA's mind share is all over this. NVIDIA has both market share and mind share. It's a go-to option in people's minds. AMD doesn't have mind share, and they need to build mind share, which you can build mind share by building market share as well, because the more people that have it, the more people experience it, and so forth. But they continue to just act like NVIDIA. So that is not a good thing to do, as we've seen by NVIDIA. All right, so let's just go ahead and start this.
All right, I have a bit of a sneaky suspicion.
Let me know on audio.
Tim might have a little bit to say on this one, only because you've said a bit about this in the past with RDNA 2 and stuff. You've been a bit confused. Do you think AMD is missing out on market share by taking too long after the 4060/4070 releases to come out with their 7600/7700 releases? So, new RDNA 3 Radeon GPUs.
Yeah, I mean, AMD doing AMD things. I mean,
AMD doing AMD. Audio is good. Thanks.
They've still got.
Battle Mage is gonna blow the doors off of these two. I hope so. Now, I want to, before we get like deep into just AMD, I didn't realize how bad fanboying is, and now I've seen it in my comments a lot. So many people talk about, oh, how you shouldn't like. People have say like I make an AMD video that's saying like positive things about its performance and its value nowadays. Somebody will comment like AMD's trash and NVIDIA's the only way to go. Why would you buy AMD? You're so freaking stupid. You should just go jump off a cliff. You're an idiot. It's like, and I've had people that comment the most stupid, outrageous things that just, it's only clouded by like fanboyism. And we need to stay focused. All right. I don't want it to corrupt any of you guys. Even like when Intel makes Battle Mage and that actually finally releases, we shouldn't fanboy over it. I'm hoping it's a good product and that at the very least it would scare AMD into maybe dropping the price on their products or just being more compelling with their marketing and stop lying about performance numbers and stuff like that. So I don't want to get it twisted. Like the only reason like I'm excited about Battle Mage is because Intel has a compelling product, and because both NVIDIA and AMD are sitting so complacent in this market, they actually have a good opportunity to strike. So yeah. So let's get into this.
Quite a lot of RDNA 2 supply in the market.
I judge GPUs on value. If you know anything about me, my PC is very function over form. I've never really cared about it. I got a 3080 and that thing was ginormous and I almost had to upgrade my case and I was like, I just don't want to upgrade my case. I care about looks so little. So yeah, I care about value.
So that's obviously a fact.
Just as a pretense for you guys getting into it and back this up.
I mean, they've still got quite a lot of RDNA 2 supply in the market, so that's obviously a factor for them, and probably impacted the 7600 launch as well with their weird sort of pricing stuff and changing at the last minute. It still seems like it's been a long time, but there's still 6800 XTs to purchase, 6950 XTs, those sorts of products can still get them, and that's going to impact, what they can do with a 7700 or 78.
I'll answer Chris's question real quick. What did I have before the 38? I had a GTX 1070. So they just, Tim just brought up a really good point. So like, obviously they have a bunch of RDNA 2 stock, like the 6700 XT that we're just talking about. This guy, and when they launched the 7600, which now goes for a little bit cheaper than 270, which was already at 300 or whatever, that was supposed to be the MSRP. This had trouble because realistically it didn't offer a very good value proposition. It just made it a nothing burger of a card. Nobody really cared about it when it launched because you could get things like the 6650 XT for less than it, and it performed the same. So AMD does have that problem with their previous gen stock, and it is important to take into account how they're approaching this. But in the end, if they're overstocked on their cards, it's still AMD's fault, and they do have to figure out how to move those while also being compelling to us with the stuff they're releasing. So it's up to them to figure it out. It ain't our fault.
800, which we'd be expecting to perform like an RDNA 2 product from previous years. Don't really know how much more efficient it would be. AMD was already offering good VRAM sizes, so it's not really like they could go, well, this previous gen model had 8 gig, but now we're offering 16 gig. No, they already had 16. So yeah, I think that's sort of impacting why they haven't immediately brought this to market. The dies are ready. They've, I believe, already been put into laptops. Can't quite remember if there's too many of that sort of Navi 32 die in laptops just yet, but it's ready. It should be pretty.
Tim just said, so RDNA 3 chips, all the ones they haven't released, obviously they released a 7900 XTX at $1,000. Okay, cool. That's cool to see. They released their top card. Then they released a 7900 XT at the same time for $100 less. Obviously, we're going to get into that. The card was a flop at the beginning, but nowadays it's starting to look pretty good. And then they skipped all the way down to the 7600. So they went from $900 all the way to what is that, 270. Like, there's a lot of cards that should go in between those two, and they just chose to ignore them because they weren't ready yet. And what is funny is I think they're gearing up to release a 70. Let's actually see if we could find it on here. They've geared up to release a 7700 XT. Yeah, this one. These are supposed to be coming in September. And there's actually a huge gap in the market right now between $300 to around $500. The 4060 Ti from NVIDIA is garbage in that price point, and then they just released a 16 gigabyte one. We're just all gonna pretend that card didn't happen, okay? All right, so let's just forget about that. There's a huge gap in the market that finally AMD actually has an opportunity with these cards that are kind of like mid to high end cards, could actually fill that gap and could have a compelling product in there and really put possibly the hurts to NVIDIA at that price point. So we'll see how this lines up. So Krista says the 7800 is going to be 5% faster than the 6800 XT. I mean, yeah, I've made videos on the 7800 XT. It's going to be bad because they already made the 7900 XT, which should have been a 7800 XT based on the performance. It still wouldn't even been a very good upgrade. But yeah, here's this chart from video cards. But these are rumored specs on these guys. It's going to be embarrassing, but it all depends on the price. I don't see them pricing a 7800 XT really below $500 because the previous gen was $700 or something. So, yeah.
pretty much ready to go. But I think, like with a lot of AMD things, it's kind of just like there's always an opportunity for AMD to do something and they never take it. So
there's an opportunity for AMD to do something and they never take it.
Is coming in.
Check out the top comment on my why AMD graphics cards are so great but no one buys them. Top comment: never underestimate the marketing department's ability to negate the engineering department's work. That's exactly what happens here.
I mean, how many
AMD,
times have we seen
it's AMD's marketing, not really the products.
to do something and they never take it? So, I mean, how many times have we seen, like, you know, Nvidia does something where they produce an expensive mid-range product, and everyone's like, "Nah, it's too expensive, not interested." And it's like, AMD, you could make it
pricing,
nice, cheap, affordable GPU, and you're going to get a lot of sales and market share. And they're just like, no, we're not going to do.
I want to add a little bit of thoughts to this though, so I'm gonna rewind this so you guys can hear this again.
AMD, you could range. We've seen, like, you know, Nvidia does something where they produce an expensive mid-range product, and everyone's like, "Nah, it's too expensive, not interested." And it's like, AMD, you could make it a nice, cheap, affordable GPU, and you're going to get a lot of sales and market share. And they're just like, no, we're not going to do that.
Why would they be so nice like that? No, that'd be weird. Because when it comes down to AMD releasing products, even if everyone on the planet, like, well, I guess not on the planet, if all of us PC gaming nerds can see it right there, it's like, oh, there's a clear gap in the market that AMD's actually in a position to release a product right now that would fill that gap, and it would be great. It's like that $300 to $500 market right now. If AMD could go in that, they would destroy. But AMD, it doesn't seem like they even care. They don't care to compete. That's what I've kind of noticed, and I think I pointed out in my last video, if you guys watched that, where AMD, I think they do it on purpose, or they purposefully try not to put that much pressure on Nvidia, because I don't think they're as interested in gaining up market share or mind share. They're more interested in just maintaining their margins and making money and then having a stable market here, whereas they're actually very much hard focusing on AI right now, servers, and Ryzen's in a good spot for consumers, so AMD is happy there, and they're selling a lot of their gaming revenue through consoles. So it's like, why should they even care about the PC gaming market? So that's the position they're in right now, and that's why we need a third competitor to crack a whip on these guys and get them into shape, because AMD doesn't even want to compete with Nvidia, and I feel like that's part of the reason as well why AMD specifically, like, if you get, when I first got an AMD graphics card, I didn't know, so literally in the box they say, "Thanks for joining the red team," like you're in a cult. We're not in a cult, we're buying a graphics card. I think that's part of the reason why they lean into, like, the fanboy stuff, is because that's how they make their sales, instead of actually trying to stretch their wings and cover a broader audience, people that actually gain market share. They're just like, "Hey, you didn't buy Nvidia. Cool." It's like, man, the product was good. I got a 6700. That thing is a beast for the price. It's like, made me cringe.
That
It's a freaking graphics card. Who cares?
So it's just so painful.
Yeah.
I remember talking to the AMD reps on the phone when the 7900 XT was launched, and it was $900, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
was,
making that
which is
up.
crazy, but yeah, it was.
When it was $900, and they're asking,
It was 900. Wait, let me get a reference. When did the 6900 XT launch at? Was the 16? You guys correct me. Was the 6900 XT during mining? Like, did it released. It might have. Wait, I can check the date. No, not really. It released at the same time as Nvidia released their cards. So this launched at $1,000. Yeah, so that was the idea. It was like, oh, we're knocking $100 off of the 900 XT price. Yeah, so it was just before it. Yeah. That would make sense. It's like, oh, we're knocking $100 off of that price, so it must be a good deal. But then they released the 7900 XT, and yeah, compared to the 6900 XT, you can name it whatever you want. It looked like a decent deal on paper. But when you looked at what the prices were actually going for in the market, I think 6950 XTs were already going for so much cheaper at the time. I think they were going for like around $700. Now they're around $600, which is really good deal. But I think they're around $700, and this wasn't that far behind. That only would have been like 10% behind. So that wasn't a big improvement. And then you got a little bit more VRAM with it, which I guess is cool. 16 gigabytes is already fine, but they called it a joke. That's probably fair. Like, I don't think, like, the 3090 was, how much did the 3090 cost? What did that launch at? I think that was ridiculous, wasn't it? $1,500. Oh my god. The 3090 launched for that much, and then you could get a 3080, which was almost as fast. For obviously that had less VRAM, but for like half the price. Like, oh my god, dude. When you get up to the top tier of performance, Nvidia just feels like they're completely unchecked, because people want to buy literally the best thing. When they have that much money, they're gonna buy the best product they can. And Nvidia does make the best GPUs. Like, you do make compromises going with AMD. They aren't that big of compromises, and actually probably a lot of people would be surprised with how little it changes anything. But like, you still make some compromises. So if you're spending over $1,000 on GPU, you're probably going to get Nvidia. So AMD needs to actually come in significantly cheaper and still offer the same performance. Like, literally, like, knock 40% of the price off, at least on that top end chip, because the margins are crazy when they cost that much. So you can actually afford to do that. This is their best margin product, is the really expensive stuff. 4080 Super win. Man, I swear to God, if they do Super, dude.
My review is going to be.
Although it wouldn't surprise me they did Super, because I think it's going to be 3 years until they launch another generation of GPUs. Let me rewind this back.
Launched, and it was $900, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I'm not making that
which
up.
is crazy, but yeah, it was.
When it was $900, and they're asking what my review is going to be like, and I'm like, this. And at the time, that was the product that they were focused on. They had the most stock for.
Yeah, not the XTX, which was the clearly better product.
So they had the most 7900 XTs.
Yeah.
That was the product they were focused on. And they're like, what do you think about that product? And I'm like, it's very bad at $900. Like, utter garbage. And they were shocked. And I'm like, why?
Dude, I got no self-awareness. If that's like all legit, and they didn't realize it was gonna be a bad product at $900, that just gives me no confidence. And then on top of that, when they released the 7600, they messed with the pricing on that card as well. It was gonna be, that card was gonna be $300 and cost the same as the 4060, but perform with about the same rasterization performance. They're like within like 1% of each other. That the 7600 was going to cost the same as the 4060, and they're like, oh shit, well, we can't, Nvidia's better at that price point, so we have to cut the price. It's like, where is the self-awareness? What
Why is the price so bad for this product? Doesn't even make any sense compared to the 1700 XTX. It needs to be like $800 max.
Yeah.
And they were a bit confused by that. And I said, I guarantee you, within like a month, 2 months max, this will be an $800 product, and it'll probably go as low as like $700.
What makes it even worse is they made more stock of the 7900 XT. That's the one that they were focusing on. They thought that was the winner. That's what was going to make them money. People were going to buy that. Like, oh my goodness. Steven says, I understand from Red Gaming Tech the 4060 Super and 4070. Sorry, dying. 4070 Super is probably coming with more RAM and higher bus width. We'll see. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, we'll see
if that's all they, so if NVIDIA's current products, the 4060 Ti at $400 with 8 gigabytes and 128-bit bus, I feel like the Super one would have been the 16 gigabyte one for one. But if they did release Supers of the 60 and the 70, that means that they clearly artificially capped the first ones. And if the Super ones come and then they add more VRAM, have it faster VRAM as well, then they knew that their first products were bad. And it doesn't make NVIDIA any better, like, obviously, because they could have done something about it, and they didn't. Cool.
If you're right, and, you know, because we've seen it time and time again, it happened. And was it only like a month that it lost $100?
You'd have to check my pricing updates. We could probably put that information on the screen,
Sure.
the charts there. But
I think
and the fact that AMD couldn't see this, now I think a lot of this is up to retailers because they buy. I think how it works on the retailer side of things, they buy the cards from AMD, obviously, or whatever board partners they're buying them from. And then they have to set the pricing. MSRP is kind of like, oh, this is what we suggest. And then if they need to move product, I don't know how much margin retailers get to move product. I think sometimes if they're really not moving, then they will get rebates from AMD or board partners, probably from AMD, so that they could actually cut them down more, which eats into AMD's margins. And if AMD knew it was going to be such a bad product, why did they not launch it at $900? So as you can see here, Tim saw in February, it took longer than I thought. So this card really started at $900 in December. And then it dropped, and the 7900 XTX was out of stock, so that's cool. But in February, it got to $850. I thought it moved faster than this. Am I crazy? I thought it was literally like a month, and it was at least discounted $50. But maybe this is like consistent pricing. Like you could always find it for that price. That could be what it is. AMD should focus on the ultra lower end. I agree with cutting ray tracing from the lower end chips. I still think like they should do that because it's expensive to add RT cores to your chips, unless it wouldn't be like. So, at the low end of the pricing stack, RT is so like bad. It's so unplayable. It's like, why do the cards even have it? It's kind of just like put a check on the marketing box or something. But realistically, you're not going to use ray tracing at all on a lower end card, especially because ray tracing uses VRAM as well, and you only have 8 gigabytes of VRAM, so you probably just can't use it straight up. And then they could save some money technically if they don't put RT cores on it, but I don't know the full side of things. Like, would technically speaking it be more effective to leave the RT cores on there, because then they wouldn't have to redesign the chip? I don't know. Maybe somebody can correct me, because it might not be worth the engineering time to figure out that problem. I'm not sure. Are single player games dead after the rise of Fortnite, PUBG? Oh, that's how you spell etc.? What? Bro, I just learned something. I've never seen somebody type out etc. I don't think single player games are dead. The only thing is single player games aren't as profitable. So, you know, other than DLC.
I think it was about a month.
It's been quick this generation.
It wasn't much more than a month. And it's like, why Why release it for $900 and
He was close. He said, it's X, it's etc. I don't know. I just say ETC. Like, I've never seen somebody type that out. Bro, Diet Coke or normal? Do you know what a Diet Coke? Diet Coke is gray. It's Diet Coke.
get slammed?
Yeah, you're on this back. Let me run this back.
I think it was about a
quick.
month.
It's been quick this generation.
It wasn't much more than a month, and it's like, why? Why release it for $900 and get slammed universally when you could just drop it to $800 and did anyway?
Yeah.
Sacrosta. I don't even know if I'm saying this right. Sacrosta. He said he bought a 7900 XT, and holy Jesus, the power efficiency is abnormally bad. That's interesting. I didn't know it had. Is that a driver problem or is that the actual thing? Dude, Diet Coke TI would be like if they made Diet Coke TI, that's just Coke Zero, right? And I could rant about Diet Coke, I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna stop myself. Yeah, that's a weird thing with the 7900 XT.
Like, I don't know what their internal process is, but I don't know who at AMD was like, oh, this will actually sell okay, or, this won't be too poor. Like, the only conclusion you could have drawn if you had the data and looked at it was that there is no way this is selling for $100. This is, at best, an $800 product, and even then it's not great. Like, that should have been the internal feedback.
Yeah. And, see, if they actually thought about how the 7900 XT launch and when they're prepping the pricing and trying to decide things, you would think that they would notice at a $900 like, oh, that doesn't really match up that well against their 6950 XT, because a lot of people are going to argue it's like, oh, the 6950 XT compared to the 7900 XT, this card was $1,100, so $200 off to get the 7900 XT, and it's like 10% faster and it has more VRAM. Oh my god, it's so much better. This, like, we have to get back to reality. Like, $1,000 for a graphics card is overpriced, and the only reason they can charge that much for it is because there's nothing up there to compete with it. So they just put whatever price tag they want on it and say, hey, buy it if you want. It's like, if you have the money, buy it. This is how they're trying to make money. It is charging an exuberant amount of money, and it doesn't matter. But realistically, this wasn't like the 7900 XT was not a good deal at its price point of $900 because of how much cards actually cost. Upper mid. Yeah, 470. Well, the 4070 now is upper mid. It didn't used to be. 70 class cards were kind of just straight mid-range cards. If you wanted a high-end card, you get like a 70 Ti, or you get like a 80 class that was like not a Ti. That was like mid-high, or maybe even high. Like 60 class was like usually like low to mid, and now it's like really they're trying to push it all the way up. Like the 50 class cards and stuff, the 500 class cards from AMD are gonna have to fill that gap of the budget cards now, and I don't think they are. Yeah, the 1070 was awesome with 8 gigs.
$800 product, and even then it's not great. Like, that should have been the internal feedback, and they should have never tried to target $900 because.
And if they actually had some self-awareness when they made these cards and they priced them, the executives in their suits were like, oh yeah, we can milk these gamers, like we can just get so much money out of them. But realistically, no, you can't. Okay, you can't. We're not gonna buy them. Okay, and they're gonna rot on shelves until they cost almost $200 less. Where now people are talking about the 7900 XT at $700 to be actually a good deal. It's okay at that price point, I think. You also pay for that AV1, you pay for that 20 gigs of VRAM. Those are the main advantages to it. Other than that, just get a 6950 XT. But internally, if they had some self-awareness, they would look at the price at $900 like, this isn't a good price for this product. It's not going to be competitive. People aren't going to buy it. and then they'd be like, oh, maybe we should drop it down to 800. But if we want to make it, like, as Steve had just said, let me rewind it.
If this is selling for $100, this is at best an $800 product, and even then it's not great.
At $800, it's not great. And I would agree. Even at $800, like, I wasn't like considering it, you know what I mean? But like at $700, like, oh, that actually looks pretty good. But if you realize at $700, it just shows how much they messed up. Because if you look at the 6800 XT, which is an 800 class card, this costed $650. And then AMD would have to realize how much they messed up because they made an 800 class card. It should have been a 7800 XT. They just don't want to admit it. And now they have to shift their whole pricing structure and stuff because they just messed up so bad with their naming. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. All to try to make a little bit more money at launch.
Like, that should have been the internal feedback, and they should have never tried to target $900 because they just look silly every time. And I swear that product's been like $700, hasn't it? Like $720 or something like that. That's been.
I think the absolute.
It was an ASRock card on Newegg for like $720 or something just the other week.
Yeah, I think flash sales have gotten it down to $700. It's been pretty consistently $750 though, which is still a big.
$750 is
big
like,
discount.
If it launched at $750, it would have got pretty rave reviews, I think.
It would have done well. It would have done well at $750, and that's just what's disappointing is you just see AMD do this over and over again with their cards. The 6900 XT, as you guys said in chat, was trashed by reviews as well. It's like, well, you can't charge that much for an AMD card. It just kind of is what it is. AMD, they need to gain trust in people and have people actually own their cards if they want to build any kind of market share or mind share when it comes down to it.
I think so.
That's a really good price.
Yeah, I agree that they've got some internal issues with their sort of marketing and feedback. I mean, just the marketing in general to the public is not amazing. But then internally, you know, it wasn't even like the performance of the card should have said that the $900 to $1,000 difference between XT and XTX was going to be a problem. It was even just the specifications of the...
And what's so weird too is like how internally do you not realize when you're charging $1,000 for a graphics card, like, you know, if you think about like down the product stack, we've seen cards like I think the 1066 gigabyte launched at $300 and the 1070 launched for $380 or something like that. And the 1070, like, proportionally, those are $80 apart, but it's at the lower end of the product stack. So that percentage difference between the cost of the cards is greater, or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know what was even going through AMD's heads when they launched the 7900 XT. Just want to check. Yeah, this is 380. When they launched the 7900 XT, and then, not this one, this one? Yeah, when they launched this card at $900, proportionally, it is very close in price to the 7900 XTX at $1,000. Proportionally, what, they're only like, what even is that, like 12% apart or something? Like the 7900 XTX would only be like 12% more. So, who in their right mind was working at AMD and was like, yeah, this is fine. Whereas, like, if you look at the 1066 gigabyte versus the 1070, so from $300 to $380, that is actually a big jump in percentage price increase. And you got percentage performance increase too. It's like, it's not, when you get to charging that much for a graphics card, you need to make a bigger gap in order to look compelling. So, as I was saying, like Mike just said, the 3090, it's kind of like that. Mr. Krabs. Oh my god, have you guys seen the Mr. Krabs memes with the freaking submarine? Oh my god. Oh my god.
To the public is not amazing, but then...
Wait. I think my cat sat on my... Yeah. I was wondering why I couldn't... Can you guys even hear the music in the background? I don't know if I should turn it up more or not, so tell me. I'm playing Hollow Knight music. My cat just sat on my volume knob. And I completely muted my PC. I didn't even realize it. Barely. I'll turn it up just a little bit. I don't want it to get to a point where it's distracting. There's a fine balance. And I can't hear what you guys hear, unfortunately. What music? You also probably won't hear the music at all on like a phone. So like if you guys know anything about speakers, especially like phone speakers, they just don't have that much dynamic range. So you're not going to hear the quieter sounds and stuff. That's what I've noticed. But if you got some, some nice $50 studio headphones, if you want to check these ones out. I'm not sponsored, but yeah, these ones are nice. You can hear it.
Then internally, it wasn't even like the performance of the card. It should have said that the $900 to $1,000 difference between XT and XTX was going to be a problem. It was even just the specifications of the card itself made it very unlikely that there would be a performance margin to justify that price.
So what you say, on paper it didn't make sense without even testing it?
Yeah, on paper it didn't make sense because the specs weren't there. And
exactly what Tim said. How did they not realize this? And as consumers, I think I talked about it in my last video, it's like, can we even trust AMD to make good decisions when they just can't even realize when they make the card that, yeah, that pricing is going to be bad. It's like how NVIDIA launched this 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte. I'm not saying NVIDIA is a saint or anything. I was saying they launched that card. They knew it was going to be bad. And like the jerks that they are, they did nothing about it to fix it. The 16 gigabyte 4060 Ti at $500, they knew it was going to be trash. So they tried to quietly launch it like it never happened. And AMD didn't do that. Now what is funny is if you guys do like together, this is the big what is it? Together we advance gaming. So it'd be this one. And on this stream, my cat is covering up my I'm sorry. Okay, maybe you guys can see her. No, you can't see her. That's how you gotta move. Okay. Here's a cat that I can't film because she's literally just darkness. This is spooky. She's like sitting right in front of my freaking bar. I can't even see the YouTube bar. But when they launched the 7900 XTX, it was pretty clear when they talked about it, which is weird. It is kind of like they were aware of this. So if you see the 7900 XTX, they announced this card is like, this is our fastest card. It's awesome and everything. Yet on the back end, they overstocked the 7900 XT. Yet they only talked about the XT like without. Excuse me. They only talked about the extra X, without the extra X one, for like probably a quarter of the time they talked about the big boy. Like, do you just see me scrolling here? XTX, XTX, XTX. Look at all that. It's like, maybe this is just marketing, but it's like, if they wanted people to actually buy the XT, it seems like internally, at least somebody at AMD knew that this card wasn't going to do as well and tried to ignore it in the presentation, even though this is the one that they stocked more of. It's weird. It's really weird. You think they'd talk about it more, huh? Excuse me. The hype was around the XTX. I mean, yeah, I get it, but yeah, I think they should talk about the lower end one if that's one they actually want to move product of. I think they knew that. I think there'd be some self-awareness that it wasn't a good product. Some, I hope. The fact that they talked about it, like Hardware Unboxed is saying the reps that they talked to said that it wasn't good, or like they were surprised. I'm like, I don't know.
We've even seen issues with. Let's go back to the 7900 XTX announcement, and they were sort of talking about what performance they were expecting versus the 6950 XT, and they were expecting a much larger margin than what independent reviewers found later. Which
is so confusing as well, because if it was a year out, it's like, okay, guys, you kind of popped off a bit early on that one, but it was like a month, 2 months. Like,
yeah, they had the cards.
It was very close to launch, so that was, and it was so confusing.
It's like, how didn't they, like they're just talking about here, they revealed, as we show in this presentation, they revealed the XTX numbers. I've talked about this many times, how these weren't accurate numbers, and they're intentionally misleading, because of how, like Steve just said, how close they were to launch. This isn't like, oh, the drivers didn't make it there. It's about to launch in a month. They should know how it performs. Like, this is already like almost shipping to retailers and stuff. Like, what? Like, bro, who are we buying GPUs from?
Because again, the AMD contacts I'm speaking with, like, oh no, your numbers are definitely wrong. Like, it's our internal testing has shown that it's got a larger gap over the 650 XT. I'm like, well, your review guide's showing that it's a bit larger, but it's not as large as what you originally claimed. And then I can't find it anywhere near there. So that was a whole frustrating process, because when we've triple checked our numbers and then
it's like they didn't even know. It's like they didn't even know how their own product performed. And then they were using their cherry-picked benchmarks. Like, Wesley Fox says 1.7x was an actual lie. It's too far off to not be intentional. They obviously misled us. And I actually don't know in that specific test scenario if you did actually get 1.7 times. And I don't think you did. Like, unless they rounded up significantly, I don't think that happened. And obviously, like, we know marketing is a thing. Like, we gotta knock a few % off of whatever AMD's talking about here. Like, they're obviously talking it up. They want to get us excited. But we have to be reasonable and say, is like, well, it shouldn't be that far off. It looks like from what they're showing us, the average is probably 1.5 times faster, or maybe 1.4 times if we're, you know, taking these niche cases. And as we found out, this is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. AMD cards perform really well in COD, apparently. And I think these were all cherry-picked. I think what AMD needs to do with their marketing is genuinely just don't bullshit it. Don't bullshit your marketing. Because when you're trying to be the valued... Well, they don't believe that they're the value GPU brand because they think they can compete at $1,000 with NVIDIA or whatever. The XTX did sell pretty well, though. But if they really want to move product, you have to be the one to cut your prices to make it appealing to people. And you shouldn't lie about your product. You want transparency, you want honesty. When you see that NVIDIA is talking up their numbers with frame generation because you turn on this funny little setting in your program and it doubles your FPS, but those are fake frames. But sorry, excuse me. When you see that NVIDIA is intentionally misleading people about their performance, you know what you could do as a company to be appealing? Don't lie. Build trust. Be a company that we could actually look to the products to and get excited for, and not think that you're always lying every single time you talk about numbers like this. It's like, what are you doing? How do you not know your own product? Like, we want that more than anything. And if you weren't, like, if they advertise numbers like this and they were being honest with themselves, what is actually performing, which is around 1.4 times or something, on a good day, at 1440p, it was actually only 1.25 times. It was only 25% faster at 1440p, and it was 35% faster at 4K, which is, yeah, so if they knew how it actually performed, I guess maybe they're talking up their numbers here, trying to justify the price tag that they're putting it to, trying to justify $1,000 for it. And it's like, maybe they don't want to live up to the fact it's like, it's not worth that much. Okay, you don't get margins like NVIDIA does. And if they really push the product, if they just stop thinking about their margins at launch and think about years down the line, was like, guess what? If you do cut your margins a little bit now, you're going to be able to charge a little bit more later on, like NVIDIA is. Ah, God. It's frustrating.
You know, spoke with other YouTubers and their numbers.
It's frustrating because, like, the average person that is anywhere, like, technically, like that understands the market at all can see what AMD needs to do, and then they just don't do it. Oh, yeah, I like the video. Hey, like the video. By the way, the link to the hardware unbox video is in the stream description. So if you do want to check this out, again, like the video for them. And maybe they have other Obviously, we're not even close. I've stretched. Man, how long am I gonna stretch this out, bro? I'm like a. I'm terrible. But like, they have obviously a ton of other questions in here. If you guys want to check out these, they're all really interesting. They almost need to make a podcast. These videos are really good.
Checked our numbers, and then I've spoke with other YouTubers, and their numbers and margins seem the same as mine. But AMD saying no, it's better than that. That was a very confusing situation, and ultimately AMD was wrong, which makes them again look just silly, just unnecessarily.
That's such a good word for it. They look silly. They look incompetent. Thinking that we would fall for things like that, or we would just mindlessly spend $900 on a 7900 XT. It's like, I'm not gonna lie, like, there is a level of people that don't do their research and stuff like that when they buy things. But in the PC gaming community, there's definitely a level of normies in this community that don't watch the money as much or do their research as thoroughly. But still, on average, people that are buying individual computer components are still more technically savvy people that do understand a little bit more of what's going on, because the baseline, the floor of entry, the skill floor is higher to enter this. It's not like buying a console or something that you can't just like buy it, set it on your TV stand, and just be like, it's fine. You have to know some things to buy a computer. And yeah, you just have to position your products like that.
Really silly.
Yeah, like I think they need to sort of reevaluate how they're doing those sorts of internal benchmarks and sort of how it's moving up the chain to people making pricing decisions and things like that. Like, I'm sure that they wouldn't have received the data that, XT is this % slower than XTX and then gone, yep, $1,000, $900, that makes sense. I'm sure there's been some miscommunication there where...
How?
I don't know. I don't know.
I know. There's no other explanation. I get where you're going, but it's just like, how?
I think there's also... Sometimes the executive level people don't have a great feel for how gamers actually buy products, especially when...
this is what I was just talking about.
We're talking about $1,000-ish product where a lot of people would just...
Right. Why do I get swarmed? All right, we have another cat. He saw his tail. Wait, Reed, say hi. This is Reed. He's a Bengal Maine Coon. So he's a big cat. There he is. But he wants something right now. If he's getting attention, or if he wants attention from you, it's because he wants something else. He's like letting you know. Bro.
If you have $1,000 or $900 to spend, and there's a card that's basically even the same value, and it's $100 more, the vast majority of people pay $100 more, because we're talking about wealthy individuals.
You upsell.
You're talking about people that have $1,000 to spend on one component of their PC. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna spend $100 more.
Yeah.
You can upsell with a premium.
Yes.
You can't downsell with a premium.
Yeah.
Like, well, we've got something that's a fair bit slower, but it's not quite as good value. Do you want that?
Yeah, it's like,
no, I want it to be slower but better value.
It's like, I'm paying $900. I'm on the budget end of this, okay? So, like, I want to save some money. Like, I can't quite afford the $1,000 one. Okay. AMD's like, we got you.
It's like that would work in a situation where the market you're targeting are people who can afford $900 but absolutely can't afford $1,000. But it's like, who's that person?
Yeah.
That person, like...
$900 costs more than most people's PCs, just to put it in perspective. Your monitor should be the most expensive part of your PC. I actually can't relate to that. I don't think. You can get nice monitors for like literally like $300 right now. So I'd say that's no, I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, people spending
like nice 1440p color accurate IPS monitors, high refresh rate. You can get them for like $300.
$1,000 in a GPU. Like I said, they're wealthy people who can generally afford that sort of difference.
Yeah, well, they're not even wealthy. They're just someone who has the money and wants to spend it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's sort of like maybe they saw, oh, well, the RTX 4090 is $1,600, so $1,000 is mid-range. It's like, well, if that's your thinking, that's just totally...
$1,000 is mid-range. For the 3090, like if AMD was seriously thinking that, like the 3090 was $1,500, but Titan cards have always costed well over 1,000 or whatever. Like I remember there was one that was like Linus Titan XP. I think it cost $1,200. Yeah. You guys remember this video? Titan XP is any GPU worth $1,200? Like, wow, how the tides have turned, or how the tables have tabled. You know what I mean?
Totally wrong. That's not how the market is thinking at the moment at all. Like, no one is buying $1,000 to replace, spending $1,000 on a GPU to replace an RTX 3070. It's just not happening.
The 2080 Ti came out.
Put short.
It wasn't even a Titan card that cost like $1,200. Oh my god. Plus just said most people don't just play games. Even if just have hobbies, I can't use a Wacom tablet on PlayStation. I would say more people just play games than you would think. The only thing is, like, when you're paying $1,000, that's like a huge investment, at least for most people, for a graphics card. You're probably using it for more than just gaming at that price point. I would hope you are, because that's a lot to spend on just gaming. So, what's up, Ido?
I think AMD needs to fundamentally change the way they're approaching the GPU market.
Yeah, I agree.
And not joking or what, like, they actually need to completely change the way they view it and tackle it, because the way they're doing it is just, they're going to continue to fail. They've made no inroads when they should have. RDNA 2 was good. RDNA 3 is good, despite falling short of expectations set by AMD. But
which they set their own expectations. They messed up.
They're both good products, good architectures. They should be able to sell well, and they've just gone about.
Although I'm always gonna be like this. AMD did kind of mess up on RDNA 3. They thought they could get more out of it than they did, I think. And then they priced their products like they're gonna have more room to make a 7800 XT or something like that. Because if it was like the margins that they had in their announcement video, like if these were the performance games they were actually getting, let's see, like they would actually have better scaling throughout the price range, but they don't have that. They just don't have it.
About it the completely wrong way. There's no,
I know that can be pretty disagreeable. So like that is kind of an opinion thing. I don't think they exactly like set up their pricing structure and naming structure properly.
A2, sure, there was the shortages or the oversupply, or the supply issues rather. So you could cut them some slack there. We still thought they should be prioritizing RDNA 2 more than they did, but as we noted at the time, we don't know everything that's going on, so
yeah.
Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. But I think
they're probably in a tough situation with RDNA 2, where they're trying to do this balancing act where their old stock is at good prices right now, and they still want this stuff to sell. You know what I mean? But they also need to make an entrance with their new stuff, because the new stuff is what actually draws attention. It gets people to care because it's a new product. We can talk about it. Reviewers can review it and say like, "Oh, this is good," or "It's garbage." It's garbage. We've seen a lot of garbage lately.
They should be doing a lot better than they are, and they're not. I don't know what the mindset is over there at AMD, but Nvidia's already doing the wrong thing in our opinion, and they're not getting great sales because of it. But they've got the market share, the mind share, all of that stuff. AMD's not in a position, and never have been in a position, where they can be like, how much is Nvidia charging? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, Kale, like, I think they do need to make their new stuff better, but it does... See, like, the bar is so low because of how garbage Nvidia's products are. Like, they don't even need to make it that good. It just needs to not cost an arm and a leg. And... like if they charge, I don't know, 20 to 25% less, because AMD's software is there. Their ray tracing with RDNA 3 is actually pretty good. And if they offered more VRAM at the prices / faster VRAM with a higher memory bus, I think that products would be really compelling, honestly.
Yeah, 10% off and
yeah, cool. And they need to, yeah, like Tommy says, they just need to launch their products at the actual right price. We need some brand awareness internally from AMD to understand what they can do.
Good. That's not the situation you're in AMD. You are completely delusional. You need to price your products well below what Nvidia's doing.
Especially at the high end.
Yeah, for multiple reasons though. Like, first of all, make it too good to ignore for game.
It's funny. So you like hear, like, this is like a passionate like thing. Like, you know what I mean? How us observing AMD's fumbling the bag. We just observe this. You could hear Tim like dude, he's energetic, dude. You can hear it. Yeah, Kapun. Did somebody say I didn't like Adrenaline? I like AMD products. Their marketing and their pricing on launch is terrible. Okay, I like Adrenaline. It's actually really good. They make great software. You know what I mean?
It's for multiple reasons though. Like, first of all, make it too good to ignore for gamers who are like only have, you know, Nvidia vision, and so you get positive reviews. That's like the thing that's.
And again, like the pricing at launch ruins reviews, and guess what? Reviews stay on the internet forever because we see. I think there's. Let's just look at Linus 6600 XT. They didn't review this product very well. And this sticks with it for its entire life cycle. They went how much for 1080p gaming? Because this card was like $400 or something for 1080p. It sticks with them forever. And now reviewers are starting to have to warn people. It's like, well, the price is probably going to go down at some point. At that point in time, maybe it'll be a good deal. Reviewers shouldn't have to do that. Okay? They should be a good deal when you launch them. Simple as that.
So frustrating about all of this is they did it with Ryzen. They had an inferior gaming processor. Everyone knew it was inferior. We knew, like, we did countless videos about why the 8700K is a better gaming CPU. It's faster now. The 8700K.
Mike just said, of course AMD saw it, Vex. Steve and Tim refused to explain AMD pricing because if they did, and I have pressed them to do, that they would have to attribute that data to me. What are you? Mike is him. What did Mike do? Am I missing something?
Okay, will always be faster than the 2700X. It is the superior gaming CPU. But it was like $360. And the 2700X was selling for what, like $150 or something at one point. So it's less than half the price. So that's justification for buying it. It's like, yeah, it's not the...
You know, irresistible chicken sandwich. You know what is something interesting? So, like, rather buy flour and grains, like actual, like, real commodities, instead of just a graphics card for $1,000. If you guys know who, what is this? Oh, what is the channel name? No, I can't think. I'm drawing a blank. Random Gaming HD. This guy only actually uses, he has access to tons of GPUs. He like kind of gets used parts, reviews them, and then I think he resells them. He only uses the 3050 for his like main gaming rig. Yeah, and if you guys want to reference, this is the guy that got me to use DaVinci Resolve like 6 years ago. He told me, like, well, he didn't tell me, I don't freaking know him. He said in one of his videos that he uses DaVinci Resolve. He's like, it's so cool. It's like, it's free and you can use it to edit videos. Like, here we are.
The most superior gaming CPU, but the game performance is good enough. It's a stable CPU. It's on a great platform, which proved to be truer and truer as time went by.
Which just like shows like you need to like be realistic with how much performance you actually need. That's the point of that.
You can buy a 5800X 3D now, and that's an awesome gaming CPU. But they did it with Ryzen. They priced the CPUs where they needed to be. They weren't like, well, you know, we're not quite as fast as an 8700K. Just knock $30 off and call it good.
I don't know about you guys, but this is where AMD gained a lot of trust. Like, I remember when I was looking to upgrade my system, I was looking at the FX CPUs. You guys remember those, like the 8350 and stuff? Like, it's like, man, the single core performance is garbage, but they do give you a lot of cores, so it's kind of like, do you get it or not? What AMD did when they came into Ryzen is like they took a hit to their margins on their chips, and obviously they can make their chips cheaper than what Intel could because they use chiplets, which is cool. Sorry, excuse me. They realized that, hey, their chips genuinely aren't as good as the competition, so they price them less, and Radeon isn't doing the same thing at all. But you know, that's what got me into Ryzen. That's why I got an R5 1600, because what was that chip? Is like $200 or something for 6 cores, 12 threads when it launched. That's what got me into it. I was like, wow, that's such a cool value.
Like,
if they'd done that,
it would have
AMD would have died as a company.
Yeah, they would have. But for some reason, they think that they don't need to do that with the Radeon division. It makes no sense.
And I think what we were saying at the start of this question as well was like, NVIDIA keeps giving AMD softballs. They throw a really slow pitch and it's coming straight at their head, which
I love this
GPUs
metaphor.
are badly priced in the mid-range.
Is this a metaphor and analogy? I think it's an analogy, actually. I love Tim's analogy here.
Pitch and it's coming straight at their head, which is like, GPUs are badly priced in the mid-range. How will you respond? It's coming straight for them.
NVIDIA's like, we have garbage products. We're gonna give you all the time in the world, the easiest pitch in the background, the easiest pitch just to hit it out of the park, and here's AMD.
And they swing and miss every time.
They just run.
Swing and miss. And then they swing around. They do a little 360. And they fall on their ass. It's AMD for you. Quipper says, what is the background music? It's from Hollow Knight. You guys should play Hollow Knight. You don't need a 3090 or a 4090 to play Hollow Knight. It's actually just a 2D game. And it's really good. It's like, I would consider it like Dark Souls, but like a mixture of like Metroid as well. It's a very good game.
Run in front of the ball and get knocked down.
It's crazy. It's
It's mind-blowing.
It's like, what are people talking about in the enthusiast market at the moment? Enthusiast market drives a lot of gaming PC sales, right? Everyone is...
That's the thing about... not a lot of people own a 4090, right? Hollow Knight runs on the 480. I hope it does. I mean, it should. It really should. It can run on a Steam Deck or a Switch. It can run on a friggin' Switch. I didn't realize there are phones that are more powerful than the Nintendo Switch. Phones. Oh god. But I gotta rewind this. What are they saying?
It's mind-blowing.
It's like, what are people talking about in the enthusiast market at the
Oh,
moment?
enthusiast. So it's like, not many people own like a 4090. Like that is like technically like the enthusiast card. Like if you're buying the best of the best, you're getting like a 4090 for like $1,600. It doesn't make up that many people, but enthusiasts have a lot of it. It's like a small minority of people that actually have a lot of weight, because obviously margins are high on those products at the top end, but also a lot of just have a lot of influence, because you know, like if you're an enthusiast, you know more about PCs, and if you talk to people, then they trust you. So what Tim is saying here, I think, is valid to a degree. Is $600 mid-range or high-end? It used to be mid to high-end. Now they're trying to make it mid-range. Like 3070 Ti was ridiculous.
It's
Mid is like a 30, and that's not a 30. 3080 is definitely higher end.
It's mind-blowing.
It's like, what are people talking about in the enthusiast market at the moment? Enthusiast market drives a lot
Lower
of
mid-range. Oh my god. We got some psychopaths in the chat.
PC sales, right? Everyone is talking about GPUs are too expensive. Everyone's saying this. People like $400 GPUs are all bad. All the options are bad. At $600, bad. This 4070 Ti at $800, bad. Like bad value products. We're not interested.
Yeah, I'd say 3080 is like an i7 or like a R7.
4060, bad, right? Everyone's saying this. And what does the AMD option is? Let's solve that problem, right? Mm-hmm. They've got a problem there. Let's forget about margins for a little bit. If we want an actual legitimate long-term strategy to make Radeon a viable option in the market for...
Exactly what Tim is saying. You need to get... It's what Intel is doing right now. Intel is targeting the lower end cards. They've had to drop their prices a lot because I don't think they have the performance on this first generation Alchemist cards as they want. But they're targeting like actually like $300 to $500 price range, and I think Battlemage is going to really lean into that more. But Intel's targeting that range, and AMD needs to target that range as well, because that's where most people actually buy their GPUs. As we talked about in like the last video, you don't need the best GPU in the world because not that many people actually buy it. Now, there is like the enthusiast factor to it. I don't think you should compete with the enthusiasts. I'm not going to lie, the enthusiasts are going to buy the best thing that they can possibly buy. So if you can't touch them, you need to target where your strengths are. And the AMD did this before with the 5700 XT, and they put the Hertz to NVIDIA during RTX 2000 series because 2000 was so bad for value. AMD was like, hey, we're just going to target that mid-range because we can't even compete with the 2080 Ti. They're just going to target the mid-range. And the 5700 XT is now to this day about the third most popular AMD GPU that exists. Because it's just that good. Okay? So I think Intel is approaching this correctly, and AMD is just not using their heads, bro. They have their heads so far up their ass, they can't see the ground no more. I don't understand.
People
win back some market share. Get some
win back market share. Win back mind share.
Yep.
And the opportunity, it's not like Nvidia's slamming them hard. Like every single product is awesome value. You've got to go out and buy Nvidia. They're not doing that. And AMD still, despite all of this effort, is sort of just going, what about we just do what Nvidia's doing? It's like, no, stop it. Stop it.
How about we just do what's NVIDIA did? NVIDIA looks like they're valued at $1 trillion. We should just copy them.
Yeah,
it's like the opportunity is there for Radeon to do something. Like the $400 price.
You know, it's a duopoly. That's kind of what I'm thinking it is nowadays. I ain't gonna lie. Like, AMD puts up a good act though, that they do want to compete. I don't know if they actually want to compete internally, and then they just act like they weren't aware of it, act like they're a bumbling idiot that doesn't understand what's going on. There's like, you're not valued at hundreds of billions of dollars as a company at AMD, and you don't understand how the market works. Like do they want to compete? I don't know. I actually don't know. Or do they just want to take their margins on their products at NVIDIA? NVIDIA pushes the market forward, AMD follows, they make some money, it's stable for them. They rely on NVIDIA, just like how AIBs rely on NVIDIA, basically. And then come in a little bit cheaper, some people will buy them, and then they don't try to be aggressive at all because that would actually hurt their business model. AMD's acting like NVIDIA. AMD is stalling. They are kind of stalling, yeah. But it's like, why did they even launch it anyways then? Like, just... Or they should have just straight up refreshed RDNA 2 and just rebranded them as like Super. I don't know. Because like, I don't know how it would have worked.
Point right now is wide open for the taking. AMD needs to have a GPU that's new in that price tier. And the issue that they've got a lot of the time as well at the moment is a lot of these good value cards that are competing with NVIDIA's products are all old products. They're all stuff that's already been talked about and reviewed. There's no, as we've talked about, a lot of reviewers and websites, most of them, even us at times, don't go back and reevaluate a product. So,
but Technomazing says, but Intel would eat their market share very quickly that way. What if they compete in the mid-range? We'll see how Battlemage does. We'll see how it does.
Something like a 6700 XT, okay, great, it's not $480 now, and you can get it for $300. Again, it's not getting the hype and talk. It's not getting as talked about as the new 4060 Ti. So all they need is, they could even have refreshed it, like just literally taken a 6700 XT, renamed it a 7700 XT.
Which they've done plenty.
literally like kind of renaming it. You just have to get it in the minds of people again, because it's up to reviewers to go back and talk about the old product and like reevaluate the old product. And not everybody does that, or it's like trying to re-educate people on things that isn't even supposed to be current anymore, but is somehow still competing. Like the 6700 XT, like why the heck is it still so competitive nowadays? Well, we just have to remind people over and over again, like, hey, this is an option available to you. But they need to release a compelling product. And even at the 7700 XT, I think they talk about it here. Even at the 7700 XT, which is supposed to be coming in around September, even if this barely performs better than the 6700 XT, I don't know, maybe like 15% max. But if it came in at $300, which I don't think they will, because the 7600 costs $270, so I would think this would probably come in around $350. If it came in around there, it would actually still be a pretty good product. So it doesn't actually take much right now. Like the Nvidia's made this so easy for them. And the 6700 XT, if you guys have seen 6700 XT, oh, some more got discounted. So what happens is this card is selling out right now because it is a good deal at its price point. But you should be able to find them. They've gone as low as 310, but it seems like those models consistently keep selling out. And then the retailers are like, oh, okay, we're going to keep discounting the other models so that they sell out. And it just like is a cycle until these are all going to be gone at some point. So we'll see how that goes.
Times in the past.
Done it plenty of times.
Hey, that's my current card. Yeah, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you.
Of it, but go on.
Not a fan, but it's better than what they're currently doing.
It's better than what they're currently doing.
If they re-release that at $300, everyone would be talking about it.
Exactly. Like if you re-release it, even if it's about the same performance, it's still gonna look pretty good. Like even the 7700 XT at $350 or something. It wouldn't be bad. Again, like Tim said, like it wouldn't be exciting. People would probably be like, oh, this is kind of a cheap grab, but by AMD, but it's necessary, and it's necessary to make people talking about it. Tommy said he's waiting for the 4GB 4040. Yo, me too, bro. I'm gonna scoop up 3 of those guys. They're only gonna be like only be like half a kidney or something. Like, it's not bad. What's up, Eric?
An official, an official
price cut with maybe a new name.
The problem is they keep doing what they're doing. As I said, they're going nowhere. They're just treading water. They're not making the inroads they need to. For some reason, they seem like they don't want to.
Which doesn't make sense.
6,000
like if you look
isn't.
Like I know that a lot of.
Abel says the RX 6000 isn't good enough for me. For me, due to the lack of AV1. I guess that's a fair point. I will say that is a fair point. Some people, if you're gonna buy an upgrade, like for me, if I'm buying a higher end upgrade, that would be like my main GPU. Obviously, I review other GPUs, but if I'm buying something like that, it needs AV1. Like for me as like a content creator, I need to. Little Amatsu says, I love your video on AV1 and cutting. Dude, I tried my best on that. I didn't have an A770 to record AV1 yet. And by the way, guys, I officially don't have the A770 anymore. I sent it back to the dude today. So it is gone. And it shall be returning to Brian the Legend, if any of you guys are curious.
You know, PC shipments and stuff are trending down, and we're in a bit of a downturn at the moment because of various economic factors. But I think it's hard to deny that PC gaming is growing as a segment. And it has grown over the years.
Well, it's going to continue to.
Like gaming.
I think Nvidia thinks that they can capitalize on this free growth of PC gaming. It's like, oh, people are going to buy the cards anyways. So like, it's not working out so well.
Just in general is growing.
Yep.
And so PC gaming has been growing and improving, and it's better now than it's been in many years, apart from obviously issues that we're facing at the moment. And so they need to be on top of this sort of market. And there's AI, and we need to serve epic CPUs which use up.
Reno just said, when will you get your GPUs by AMD and Nvidia directly? I don't know. I have no clue. I talked about in my one video, I forget what it even was. I think it was about the 4060 Ti 16GB. I did email. Excuse me. I did email Intel directly, and we talked about like fixing some of the bugs I experienced, and it seems like they're actually receptive to feedback. I think they're working on some of the things I talked about. I think it was decently like respectable, which is cool. And then they also they did say if they have an extra 750, if I would like to receive an A750 for future testing. I was like, yeah. Don't tell it until I said this, but I was gonna buy one anyways. So if they do send me one, cool. Like, yeah. So Intel did say that they might send me one. I have not heard that. They have told me about stuff with like driver updates and stuff, but they haven't told me about the A750 yet. It will always take free. I would like to track it over time, so that would be cool. And if you want AV1, for people who were talking about AV1, if you want AV1 on a budget, the ARC cards are really good actually. The A750, the H.264 encoder on the 750 is amazing as well. Like QuickSync encoders are literally the best encoders. They're better than NVENC, okay? Every way, they're awesome. There is a bug that happens right now with recording, and I'm seeing if they'll fix it.
Dies and wafers. These days, it doesn't seem like wafer supply is too much of a concern. TSMC are dropping price.
And A750 for reference, about $220. So that's the cheapest you can get AV1 encoding right now, except for the ARC A380. But you wouldn't use the ARC A380 as a main GPU. That's like e-waste. So you'd use it as like a secondary. NVIDIA is sharing its drugs with AMD.
Prices for wafers, not necessarily cutting edge stuff, but
yeah, I talked about in my 30-day ARC challenge, if you're curious about it, it drops some frames if the game is under full load, especially when ray tracing, at least recording in OBS, the encoder always messes up a little bit, at least on my system. I don't know if it'll be true for everybody, but I'll look into it on my actual video.
You know, people less interested in buying up wafers. So they need these sort of core businesses, and yeah, just like gaming could be one of those core businesses for AMD outside of their CPU division. And they even just make basic mistakes like, again, it's like they announced FSR 3 back when the RX 7900 series was announced. I believe that's when they sort of
it was like a
FSR.
knee-jerk reaction to try and make RDNA 3 seem better than what it is.
Does anybody know where this was? Because AMD, people asked them after this conference when they announced FSR 3, which there's a really cool guy in here that gave all of the things. So here's FSR 2.2, FSR 3.
Even with resound.
So they announced FSR 3 here, and this was a month or what, like maybe like a month and a half after NVIDIA's presentation. Somebody did ask the people that work at AMD, I don't know if they're exactly responsible for this. It could have been their marketing team, which would screw it up. But that they asked, they might have asked the marketing team on accident. But they said that this wasn't a reaction to DLSS 3. DLL, bro, these acronyms, man, so many letters. They said it wasn't a reaction, but I think it clearly was, in the fact that it isn't ready yet, and they haven't really given a release date, is like, I think they literally just started working on it. It's like how AMD, like, it's not like AMD didn't want to do ray tracing with, like, say, like, their 5000 series cards. It's not like they didn't want to do ray tracing. It's that they literally hadn't done any research on it, so they're just like, screw it. It is what it is. We don't have ray tracing. FSR 2 came out so much later. So I think FSR 3 was also just a reaction.
Where's that feature? Like, why are you talking about features from 9 months before they're available? And that's
AMD won't even show it. Yes. Kapun, like, dude, you're so right. Like, why haven't we seen anything? Like, you'd think they'd have a test demo or something just to kind of get us excited about it. They're probably gonna talk about it, at least. I don't know if they'll launch it, but they're probably going to talk about it around when the 7700 and the 7800-ish GPUs are going to be coming out in like September. I think they're getting announced in August. So you would think they would at least speak on this, because FSR 3 is a major feature when it comes down to it. And there's, if you're interested more in FSR 3, I made a video about it that really went in depth about how, like, it might actually end up, like, part of FSR, and like especially FSR 2, so many people like it so much because it's supported on every single GPU or whatever, right? I thought I was gonna be able to find it here, but FSR 3 might actually not be supported on every single GPU, and I think that isn't unreasonable to assume, because it just requires certain technology that not every GPU has. So, and it also has latency issues, and you can't guarantee to reduce the latency on every single GPU in the same way. So part of the reason to get excited for FSR 3 might not even happen. And I think they're learning things as they go, and that's why it's taking so long. And like, do you think it would look bad? My other fear, yeah, is like, what if FSR 3 doesn't even look good? Like, seriously. Like, what if we get this product? We got it announced so much earlier, and then we get it, and it looks significantly worse than DLSS 3. It's like, bro. Much more, if you want, this is a, when I'm streaming now, I'm gonna make streams more focused. Okay, so we're talking about what the stream title is. I think it's kind of like a live video, more than the fact than like, this isn't like help you with your CPU buying decisions times, but if you do want to like get advice on building your stuff, we have a Discord server. I think it's in the description. Let me check it. Yeah, the Discord's in the description. There's a bunch of people in there that can help you out. So that's all I'm gonna say. Or you can ask people in chat and they might respond with you. But like, I'm not doing PC building help time.
Feature's not going to sell
unless that is the focus of the stream.
3 really good prices are going to sell RDNA 3.
It's not exclusive to RDNA 3.
I guess from our perspective is, well, we've looked at RDNA 2 be quite successful in terms of the architecture and the resulting products. We're seeing pretty much the same thing with RDNA 3, but what we're not seeing from AMD is a plan. Like, what's their plan?
What's their plan?
To win back.
What is their plan? We don't know their plan. They leave it intentionally vague. See, it's like, a company isn't going to tell you their plan to make you buy their stuff, but like, usually the writing's on the wall. Like, you know what they're doing. It doesn't take a freaking rocket scientist to figure it out.
Market share. The Mindshare goes along with that. Like, Mindshare is a funny thing because, you know, most people I speak to, they're like, oh, I want a GeForce GPU. What about a Radeon?
This is something that, in my original video, why AMD graphics cards are so great but no one buys them, I talked about Mindshare in this. Like, people said I looked good in the red shirt. What do you guys think about the red shirt? But I that's what I talked about. I talked about Mindshare, and it's the fact that when you think about buying a GPU, you think about NVIDIA. You don't think about AMD. It's like a lot of people are pretty surface level with their understanding and don't even know that AMD is an option, or pretenses from AMD's past, where they weren't as good as NVIDIA, like with their software, their drivers and stuff. That can like get in the way of even considering them as an option. That's what they need to break, and that's why reviewers have been taking hold and saying like, hey, AMD is a good option and you should consider them. They're just really shit at marketing, like really shit at it. so the reviewers do the marketing for them. Because they're actually competitive, except for they launch their products very poorly too. But yeah.
On GPU, no, I want a GeForce GPU.
Lack of brand awareness.
I can't really tell you why. It's just because, you know, a streamer uses it, or they're familiar with them. They haven't used Radeon before. They've heard that maybe Radeon.
That is one thing too. Streamers, unless you're streaming on YouTube, I cannot recommend streaming on an AMD card. Intel is better. and Intel's on their first generation part, NVIDIA is way better as well than AMD. So like streamers are going to be probably streaming on NVIDIA almost every single time. And that's if you're streaming to Twitch, because H.264 as an encoder on AMD GPUs is just garbage. It's freaking garbage, and that's all you can stream to Twitch with. But on YouTube, you can use H.265, which does look good. And I'm streaming on H.265 right now. And you can also stream with AV1 on YouTube. But YouTube isn't as good of a streaming environment. YouTube is like, this is a quick side note, like YouTube is like, I'm streaming a video. And that's what YouTube very much encourages you to do, because you have to make a thumbnail. You have to make a schedule for when your stream starts. On Twitch, you don't have to do that stuff. It's like way more free form. Obviously, that can mean your stream can take all kinds of directions, but YouTube wants it more directed. So I think Twitch does provide a more casual streaming environment. So for most people that want to stream, most people probably are going to stream on Twitch, or Kick. Or Kick. But most people are going to probably stream on Twitch, and AMD just is unusable on Twitch. I wouldn't recommend it at all. Like even a cheap NVIDIA graphics card, just as your co-processor to encode your stream, is way better than what AMD would offer. It's just bad. It's just bad.
GPUs are bad drivers. And I've had a few different people I know quite well who have then bought a Radeon GPU and they're like, oh my God, like this is actually better experience than what I have with my GeForce GPU. The software is much better, much more polished. The features seem easier to access. There's more features. Things like Relive work just as well as Shadow Play. The AV1 encoding support works just as well as what you see on Ada Lovelace.
I got a video up and coming where I am taking an AMD GPU and I do undervolt it. And actually, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Excuse me. MSI Afterburner is like, this is usually what you'd use to like track your stuff or overclock your cards and stuff. It's like a universal overclocker, and this is like, I don't know, I was on an AMD card and this graph looked completely different. It looks good on NVIDIA's, but I was on an AMD card, it looked bad, and I actually just was like, wait, I can just use Adrenaline to undervolt my graphics card, so I'm just going to use Adrenaline. Adrenaline is AMD's software from their driver. And AMD's software, you don't need a freaking account. You don't need an account. We like that. Signing into NVIDIA, and it's like, oh, what's your email?
They're kind of a bit shocked, like, hang on, I thought this was meant to be like really janky and terrible. And the truth is, at least with the current generation stuff, there's just as many problems with GeForce GPUs as there are with Radeon GPUs, but they both generally work quite well. And I know you've talked at length about your display issues with GeForce stuff and that you use Radeon GPUs.
Yeah, Martyr me, it says, I love Adrenaline. It's really nice. I really like Adrenaline too. It's super clean, the interface is nice, you get tons of control. I don't like how the hotkeys come up like preset. I don't like the hotkeys that they use for it initially, and I change them immediately, which is only really a problem for me because I swap out GPUs and drivers all the time, so I have to keep redoing my hotkeys. But I don't like how that's set up. That's pretty much the only downside about Adrenaline. Other than that, it's like cleaner, nicer, really powerful. It's awesome, and it's underrated right now.
Because they're actually a lot better with their display engine. We've certainly found that with flickering screens and other issues with GeForce 40 series, which...
So what they're talking about right now is like AMD and NVIDIA GPUs both have their upsides and their downsides. Like neither of them are perfect, but they're both really good.
Apparently they just updated all the previous generation GPUs to solve that, but Balin's test system, Balin's editing PC and my editing PC, if we put a 4090 in there, the monitors constantly flicker and stuff using Adobe Premiere. Anyway, getting sidetracked, but it's all there. They've got all the ingredients. Like Radeon is in the best position, in my opinion, it's ever been in.
Because like back in the day, back in the heyday of the RX 580 or something like that, yeah, isn't that like that is a legendary card, or the RX 480, basically the same card. Everybody bought those cards. Those cards were awesome. But, well, not everybody, but like, you know, like they actually got a lot of sales because they're such good value cards. But at that point in time, like AMD drivers weren't that reliable yet. They were inconsistent and they were not that good. But nowadays, they've drastically improved that stuff. So it is interesting, is maybe that's what they've been working on. I don't know why the engineering team working on the software would be stopping the marketing team from doing a good job. But maybe they've been working on, like, I'm really coping right now, but maybe they've been working on their software and improving that. That's been getting better. And then now with confidence, they might do something better. I have no clue. I have no clue how it could work.
And they're still just like, oh yeah, knock a little bit off the price and that's how we compete with NVIDIA. It's like, no, that's all the ingredients. Like Radeon is in the best position, in my opinion, it's ever been in. And they're still just like, oh yeah, knock a little bit off the price and that's how we compete with NVIDIA. It's like, no, that's not how you compete with NVIDIA. No one cares about, you know,
No one cares. You can tell. Yeah, I want AMD to compete. Like I don't want NVIDIA to just be up there just like chill and do whatever the heck they want. That's not good for us, dude. Like as much as like the console wars debate, like PS5, Xbox or whatever, as much as like we can get heated or be on like Fanboys or whatever, like who really cares about the fanboy stuff? But like at least there's healthy competition in the console space. What's funny is AMD makes the chips for both of those consoles. The Switch is in just a world of its own. Like, Switch needs some help right now. But they just make good games, and that's why it's good. But it's like, in the console space, like, there is competition, and it's exciting because of that. But in the PC gaming space with GPUs, it's just NVIDIA, really. And then AMD following what NVIDIA does with their marketing, and then it's up to, like, reviewers and word of mouth to tell people that AMD is a good option and that their software is underrated and people shouldn't be as cautious around getting an AMD GPU.
Your 7600 for $30 less than a 4060. Everyone's just going to buy the 4060.
Again, there could be I'm sure how long is this question going for? Years.
The TikTok.
Again, it's like the 76. I want to actually rewind that back.
Yeah. Your 7600 for $30 less than a 4060.
It's $30. Like $30 is like 10% of the price or something like that. But like the 7600, like again, like a 4060 for, it's even discounted right now to $290 for $30 less to get a 7600 that isn't that compelling. Like people are just gonna get NVIDIA. Like you get the frame generation, and you get CUDA support, and you get better ray tracing, and it's more power efficient. It's like you pay for the NVIDIA tax, yeah, but it's really, wait, there's a Across the Spider-Verse one. What's unique about it? Wait, what? Let's look at here. Wait, what? Tim upselling? Bro, why is this Spider-Verse themed? Man, that movie was so good. I ain't gonna lie. Why is the Spider-Verse theme? There's no... It's just the box. Dang it. Dang it. That sounded so cool for a second. I would consider getting the crap 4060. Just because of that. Just a freaking box. Oh my god, dude. So misleading.
Everyone's just going to buy the 4060.
Again, there could be I'm sure how long is this question going for? Years.
The TikTok generation are pissed right
Yeah, they're like,
now.
oh my god.
They're like,
shout outs to my TikTokers right here.
trying to swipe to the next one.
I think there's probably some...
You know, like, as a side note, like, TikTok, like, I don't think people actually, like, hate long form videos or anything like that. I really don't think it is. Like, obviously the content has to be good, but, like, how shitty do you feel when you scroll through TikTok or YouTube Shorts? Like, man, I feel like garbage. I don't know about you guys, and I don't learn anything. Like, people do want more digestible information and more educational content, or just, you know, not such fast-paced stuff. But the thing about TikTok, YouTube Shorts is, like, it's so addicting to keep scrolling, and that's the difference. Like, I don't think people hate long form content. People happily listen to it like a freaking 2-hour podcast. I made a video about this like a long time ago now. I get addicted to YouTube Shorts because it's right there on my YouTube feed, and I am a YouTube addict, basically. I watch a lot of YouTube, and then the shorts are like just right there. You just like, ugh. It's like so hard to avoid. You can't turn them off. I'd rather just turn them off. I just watch a longer video. It'd literally be better. It would be better for YouTube if I didn't watch shorts. But I don't know.
Internal metrics as well that are maybe being set too low for the Radeon division. I'm sure with RDNA 2, for example, that they
dude, when HC window, bro, you're literally watching a live stream right now. I can't focus.
Maybe being set too low for the Radeon division. I'm sure with RDNA.
I'm thinking about making it, Alvo, I'm thinking about making a second channel that is like less tech like focused. Like, this is gonna be like tech gaming focused on this channel, mostly graphics cards, because it's just audience built up. I think it's a nice community. But I'm thinking about adding another channel on where it's less like high production. I don't have high production, but like, you know, like less edited content and stuff like that, and like making more of a thoughts channel, more general content. All right.
As well that are maybe being set too low for the Radeon division. I'm sure with RDNA 2, for example, that they did sell more cards than RDNA 1, which maybe internally was like tick, and then they go to RDNA 3 and it's like, okay, well, we sold more RDNA 2 products, so clearly we're on the right track, we're doing the right thing, so let's just keep doing what we were doing.
Vex reacts.
You know, if that's their sort of internal
there probably would be reactions on it. I actually have an entire video made up about the Across the Spider-Verse movie. I love those movies. I don't know about you guys. Man, that shit was so good. I loved those. Yeah, thoughts channel. Without the UGH. Just thoughts.
So let's just keep doing what we were doing. And, you know, if that's their sort of internal metrics and what they're benchmarking themselves against, maybe that's either misreading the market because we've gone from crypto mining to no crypto mining. So if sales go backwards when they're thinking that sales are still going to be at that level, that's going to be an issue for them. But then, you know, if they're sort of sitting around and saying we're comfortable with 15% market share or something like that, that's the wrong metric to be setting. It
Surely
be,
that's...
how do we get to 30, 40, 50%? Like, what can we do to accelerate Radeon so that, you know, we're continuing to be a dominant player? We can be a dominant player in CPUs and in GPUs.
That would be so cool. That would be so cool if AMD could actually do both. Because that's the thing, is like they just did it recently. They just did Ryzen, and now Ryzen is like, I think, getting close to half of the CPU market nowadays because their products are compelling and they were priced well, and it really made people talk about them. And over time, they've built up a lot of market share. They did it right. And that's what actually AMD was about to go bankrupt, and Ryzen saved them because of how they marketed that. It's like, you think that you could learn from the other side of your business for Radeon if they really wanted to improve Radeon, which I don't really like. The more I see it, just like the less I think they actually want to improve it. But if they actually did, you've done it with CPUs. You can do it with GPUs. I don't know what to say.
But it just seems like their strategy is not really to care
They're
that
like,
much.
if only we'd pulled something like this off, before, like pulled the...
Yeah. And I mean,
if only we had an example to follow.
there's certainly hardware and software features that AMD could be executing better on. It is hard to gain market share when you don't have the fastest GPU. So the XTX is not as fast as the 4090. That makes things a little bit difficult. You know, DLSS is still superior to FSR. FSR 3 is non-existent compared to DLSS 3. So there's challenges there. It's not like they can just price a GPU and they instantly win, but they need to take all the little things that they can to be putting themselves in a better position.
I mean,
and they really need to, like, I don't know how you would do the marketing exactly, and to trust that AMD knows how to do the marketing either is like definitely having way too much faith. I don't think that they know how to market their own products either. But they also need to talk about how like competitive Radeon software is nowadays compared to Nvidia's. Like they need to talk about that, like how good it actually is, how good the user experience is, without it coming off in a way that you don't that they feel like they're making up or like coping, basically, that it's better than it used to be. Like they'd have to go from a space of like triumph and confidence, which is a challenging marketing thing, especially to make software compelling. You know what I mean?
I think the 5700 XT sold pretty well, and that was in no man's land in terms of RDNA lineup. That was the flagship product.
Yeah, we do most of it pretty good.
But that's one thing they can do is like, okay, sure, you're not going to get the Mindshare bonus of having the fastest product, but you can take the win of having a fairly well-priced mid-range.
Yeah, it was $100 less. It didn't have ray tracing, didn't have upscaling, wasn't very power efficient.
There is a code.
Sort of plagued by the display driver issue, which we've touched on but couldn't really replicate, but that was a bit of a weird one. But it had problems and it had shortcomings, but by all accounts sold quite well. It was quite a popular product because it was priced $100 less than the nearest competitor. And it trounced the RTX,
talking about the 5700 XT.
What was it, 2060 Super at the same price. Anyway, probably... we're still doing the Q&A, or is this its own video? Should we...
What's funny is like they saw exactly what they needed to do with the 5700 XT or 5000 series in general. That first of all, they have CPUs to replicate the Ryzen CPUs. They have that to replicate off of, as an example, and then they have the 5700 XT to say, hey, no, that's what we need to do. We need to really market to what people actually want, and we want value, especially when value is so bad right now. And value is coming in even like VRAM or even bus width or a bunch of things like that. It doesn't actually have to be that complicated. But it's like they could do their marketing and they could show. Maybe when they do the 7700 XT, maybe it'll come in with like 12 to 16 gigabytes of VRAM, and then they could literally show it a side-by-side against a 4060 Ti at $400, and then they'll just be like, hey, look, your textures aren't ruined. Hey, look, you're not running out of VRAM. Like, hey, look, like it wouldn't even, like the marketing wouldn't be that hard for that. Like, so many people are talking about VRAM now.
We released this as its own video.
This is the why AMD.
But like I've been drinking from jugs for like 3 years. I'm way deep. I'm just memed out now.
The is bad marketing video.
Yep.
Which might be in the Q&A or not. We'll see.
Oh, Cigar X3D GPUs. I was thinking about that. I think now I might be completely wrong on this, but I was kind of thinking X3D memory. It's interesting. So that's cache. But I feel like a lot of the technology that they use to make X3D, like on the 5800 X3 or 7800 X3D, they stacked the cache obviously to extremely improve the capacity of it. Isn't that so similar to HBM memory, high bandwidth memory? They stacked RAM modules on top of each other and then still had them to get the bus width up. So it'd be like smaller capacity pieces, and then they would still connect it through a larger bus. Like, isn't that so similar to X3D? Am I crazy? Is that what made X3D? Maybe.
Because I swear that was like 20 minutes of question answering right there.
Well,
so
again, for the people who like YouTube shorts and get triggered when we talk about something, for people who get triggered when we have a discussion, a conversation, which is kind of what the Q&As are about. It's not just about addressing questions as quickly as possible. It's that Tim and I catching up and having a chat about tech-related stuff.
like 80% of that was not actually answering that question directly.
So sorry.
This question was, is AMD missing out on market share? Yeah, this isn't even like, most of this wasn't regarding that at all, but more of just AMD's stupid marketing strategies and how they mess up.
related stuff.
Like 80% of that was not actually answering that question directly.
Yeah. So sorry, but not sorry. Anyway, we'll move on to the
Yeah.
next one before we get too many more dislikes.
Okay. So that is that whole section. That is definitely the topic of the stream. AMD, just get some self-awareness, guys. Like, come on, man. That's really what it is. They just need to know what their actual value is in the market, and if they just want to go, if they want to continue their strategy of just charging like 10% less, like Steve said, and then like people think that people will buy them. Like, hey, if you just want to be the value brand, you just got to charge even less. Okay, you got to be like undeniable value, and that's not quite what they're doing right now. So HBM requires a 4096 memory bit interface, which sounds like a lot of silicon. I don't know, but I was like, is that the technology that led to X3D? I don't know. But yeah, obviously, huge shout out to Hardware Unboxed for making this video. Hardware Unboxed, or I guess more Steve specifically, was basically the only channel that I've seen so far that made the plunge, took the sacrifice of buying a 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte at $500. And in Australia, and I think it was like over $1,000 because they're from Australia. Like, they're the one, so like, just shout outs to the legend. All right, taking the plunge for us so we don't have to do it. Because I was gonna make a meme video where I got that card because it's like clearly like the worst value we've like ever seen. But then I was like, I couldn't stomach the cost. I ain't gonna lie, that was so expensive. I didn't buy it. I'm not getting it. But yeah, huge shout out to Hardware Unboxed. I'm gonna go ahead and link the video in the chat for you guys, and I think I'll just maybe do some questions here just to wrap up stream. Yeah, I had to vent that out for AMD. I hope AMD sees this video. Oh, also on that Hardware Unboxed video, if you guys haven't seen these videos, they're Q&As, and they do them every month, and so they cover a whole ton of questions. So if you're interested in seeing anything else about this, they talk about things like AMD, could they add more cores than 8 on a single CCD? Are they marketing GPUs towards esports? Is esports games like an excuse to not have enough VRAM? How is it to should we trust reviewer numbers anymore because of like frame generation and VRAM and stuff like that? You know, it's really interesting stuff. So it's actually super cool. I damn near just like, guys, make a podcast. Like, they could do it. It's definitely niche. Hub commented on your vid. Saw that, W. They've commented on a few vids. I've talked to Steve before. He's cool. It's cool. He's a lot older than me, so it's hard to relate. So that's no offense to Steve, but he's like, I'm just younger. You guys got anything you want to ask? Yeah, I think the 6800 XT at its price point, because 6950 XT is like what people are talking about. Is like, oh, it's such good value, but the 6800 XT at $500 isn't bad either. Age is a number. You should see a young Steve. Why are there so many Steves and so many Pauls in the graphics card or in the tech scene? So there's Steve from Hardware Unboxed, there's Steve from Gamers Nexus, there's Paul from, not an Apple fan, there's Paul from Paul's Hardware. I think there's another Paul from Red Gaming Tech. Like, I don't know. But says, damn, a camel can't drink like that. Dude, you just don't drink water like that, huh? I've always been a water drinker. 7900 green. Oh, is that what that actually can? Because that wasn't the Golden Rabbit edition? Let's actually check that out real quick. There's a Golden Rabbit edition, which is exclusive to China for the 7900 non-XT. So, like, you know, all those X's we were talking about? Yeah, had to cut them off, you know? It was a bad time. So, yeah, so they made the 7900 non-XT, 16 gigabyte card with, I think, a slightly cut down spec. No, it's basically a 7900 XT without the extra X, but maybe launching at $600. Maybe, I don't know. A little bit less VRAM. I think that's a better card. That to me, that seems like a relaunch. That seems like a relaunch of what they. Because they messed up the pricing of the 7900 XT so bad and they've had to just drop it continuously to get it to somewhere reasonable. This seems like a card that would literally just be like, oh, this is what we actually want to price it at now. And they're not going to publicly apologize for it. But yeah, I think they just messed it up. Now, if they do prices at $600, that would be interesting. Because that officially means that a 7900 class card would cost less than what the 60 or the 800 class of last generation would have cost. Like, what did this cost? This is a non-XT for 6800, which costed $580, and the XT. That means officially that in a generation, the tier above class card went under the other class card. It says less memory, smaller bus width, lower memory throughput. I don't think the memory overclock will bring it back to the XT. I mean, you say that, it's on a 256-bit bus, so it probably won't perform as well at 4K. And has less VRAM in total, but like let's be reasonable here. The 6800 XT was also on a 256-bit bus, and does really anybody complain about 6800 XT VRAM? Like, it's not the fastest VRAM it could be, but it's like, it's not bad. It's at 500 gigabytes per second. That's pretty good. It scales pretty well. Eventually, like, this technically performs very close to an RTX 3080, but RTX 3080, because it does have faster VRAM, it does scale better. Like, it plays better at 4K. But I think the 7900, if it comes in at $600, will be a good deal, because it should perform about the same. Yeah, 320-bit is like, it's like fat. That's like fast memory. That's what's on the 3080. So I don't know. I just wouldn't expect anything that crazy on it. Yeah. See, actually, there's effective bandwidth with the Infinity cache. Maybe. No, you can't get it in the US. I've heard rumors that the 7900 might come to the US. Let's see, did they talk about it in this article? Who knows? Why do they have this? Interesting. So the 7900, let's see. Is it going to be coming to the US at all? Not the Golden Rabbit edition, but like just 7900 in general. I am not seeing anything. AMD has not yet officially confirmed the existence of this graphics card, and it's possible it will have a limited release initially, possibly targeting the Chinese market. Nonetheless, gamers will be likely welcome to prospect of a more affordable 7900 XT model. It's starting to look pretty good if it's at like $700 anyways. But the model featuring 16 gigabytes of memory, which should be more than sufficient for high fidelity gaming, I agree. And probably will be for a while. Like 16 gigabytes is like how 8 gigabytes was. Like 8 gigabytes when like a 1070 came out in 2016, that was like, that's a lot of VRAM. That's awesome. But, you know, I think 16 gigabytes will be in that position right now. It's not going to be a problem for a while. The only question that remains is whether AMD intends to launch this graphics card on the global market. So they do not have an answer for this. Is what it is. It's what it is, I guess. Is this live? Yes, this is live. He got a 6800 XT for 440. Did you get the game with it though? Did you get? Yeah, this chat happened yesterday, and we're scripting this all right now. Actually, you're the main, Picaro. You're literally the main character. All of this is scripted around you, just so you could come in right now. If you got the Starfield bundle with that 6800 XT, like, oh my goodness, that'd be crazy. But if it was just a used one, it's not that nutty. You guys got anything else to ask? I think I'm gonna wrap up here. I'm gonna work on a video that should be up in the morning, I think. The delay is like 3 seconds. Yeah, I don't have it on low latency. Or I don't have it on ultra low latency. I have it on low, but that's it. AMD's noise suppression. I've never tried it. I've never had a use for noise suppression, so I can't really speak on it. I didn't like Picaro. Wake up. Wake up, Picaro. Wake up. But yeah, I never used noise suppression. NVIDIA Broadcast, I had tried it before. It could be useful for some people. It interfered with my audio recording setup, how the software implementation was, so I never even used NVIDIA Broadcast. So I cannot speak on it. Yeah, it'll be you guys will like the video. You guys will like it. Do you think AAA is losing touch with most of the gamers that really afford gaming hardware? I don't think it's really the fault of AAA devs, but I don't know, maybe. See, a lot of developers are going to be using Unreal Engine 5. Like, I think we just saw Remnant, another game that released on Unreal Engine 5, and a lot of devs are going to be working with it. Unreal Engine 5, I think, is more demanding, like with the features you'd want to use in it, than what hardware is at right now. And it, like, Remnant doesn't run that well. So I don't know. If you want to check it out, Daniel, I have caps on. I'm gonna switch over to this, and you're gonna be like, why is it like capitalized? Remnant 2. If you want to check this video out by Daniel Owen, he went over that. It doesn't perform that well. So I don't know if that's the fault of the engine or the devs. I don't really know. Because they use Unreal Engine 5, but it doesn't have Lumen. It's just demanding. So I don't know, it kind of sucks. I don't know what to say about it. So it's either that the engines and stuff are outpacing, or maybe developers are going to learn how to use these new engines like better. Because when you think about it too, people that are using Unreal Engine 5, it's like a general engine. Like, a lot of games developers will make their own engine to make their games. And if you make your own engine, you kind of know the ins and outs of it a lot more, and that allows you to optimize things better. So if you're talking about Unreal Engine 5, it's like a general purpose, anybody can use it kind of engine. So they're probably having to learn how Epic Games likes to do their engine. So it's it is what it is. And I think the new engines are outpacing like even the PS5, Xbox Series X right now. So yeah, we'll see how optimizations go. I would rather them optimize the games so that they run better on a larger range of hardware than even to try to have them optimized for 8 gigabytes of VRAM or something. Like, I don't think that the VRAM is worth it in this case, but it is what it is. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Do the cinematic 30 FPS. Hey, just turn on that motion blur at 30 FPS. Looks gorgeous, and it looks even better at 24. Trust me. All right, you guys have a good night. Have a good day wherever you are. Hope you take it easy. Good stream. Peace. Smooth 30, the smoothest motion blur, 30 FPS. God.